प्रसार भारती अभिलेखागार की प्रस्तुति सदाबहार सुनहरे दौर का अनमोल खजाना।
The Second World War saw Europe and America trapped together in the most merciless world war that mankind has ever witnessed against the forces of fascism. On the one hand was untold misery, and on the other, war had become a lucrative business. A large underground market spawned, creating shortages and selling them as scarce commodities. Everything disappeared from the market counters, but anything was available for sale through the back door. And the scarcest commodity of them all was human values, morality and ethics. And it was at this time that a few filmmakers summoned the courage to focus on this gray area of human decency, or more probably, the lack of it. The tragedy of the war and all its consequences made those archetypal good-bad Hollywood stories and musicals look so empty. All those courageous heroes look so phony, and the stereotyped villains so trite and commonplace. Ultimately, these filmmakers realized that archetypes are incomplete. They could neither describe nor predict human life, however attractive they may be. Life existed too much in the shades of grey, almost black. The films that we will be talking in this particular episode were referred to as the film noir genre. Noir means black in French. These films had a common style and a stamp of individuality. Thanks to these films, which distinguished themselves by its unique formalisms, film scholars suddenly became aware of the fact that there could be genres of films and not just a variety of themes and subjects. The title of guru to this unique tradition can go to none other than a young 25-year-old genius in 1941 called Orson Welles, and his film was called Citizen Kane. While making this film for RKO Pictures in 1941, Orson Welles put a board outside the studio saying, "Do not disturb, a genius at work, a masterpiece in the making." And true to his prediction, this film has remained on any critic's top 5 list for the last 50 years. This film, scripted around the life of press baron and business tycoon William Randolph Hearst, examines at one level the role of the newspaper medium within a capitalist system, how the autocratic press believes that it can shape the opinions of the people and influence economic and political workings of a nation. And there is also a strange psychological dimension. The character of Kane always wants to present a larger-than-life image of himself, but at heart, he is an uprooted orphan.
I had no hope of being elected. Now, however, I have something more than a hope. And Jim Geddes has something less than a chance.
He is a loner thrown into the barbaric arena of capitalist perversion. He wants to acquire and accumulate everything that man can buy, but for no purpose. He wants to run for the president's post, but with no ideology. He wants total control on everybody around him, but with no self-discipline.
The working man, and the slum child know they can expect my best efforts in their interests. The decent, ordinary citizens know that I'll do everything in my power to protect the underprivileged.
But the dimension that hits everyone straight in the eye is the fabulous manner in which the film has been mounted, especially the extreme long takes. The spectacular music by Bernard Herrmann and the celebrated creation of deep focus photography by master cameraman Greg Toland makes this film one of the greatest achievements in the history of cinema. Notable also is the newsreel-like footage created by Orson Welles himself and the narration through multiple flashbacks in one of the most innovative screenplays ever written by Joe Mankiewicz.
20,000 tons of marble are the ingredients of Xanadu's mountain. Contents of Xanadu's palace. Paintings, pictures, statues, the very stones of many another palace. A collection of everything, so big it can never be catalogued or appraised. Enough for 10 museums, the loot of the world.
The elaborate use of miniatures and traveling mats. Finally, you come out with a deep sense of admiration for cinema's greatest portrayal of an unabashed egotist, Orson Welles, who transports you through a span of 7 decades with all the minutest details. Elaborately detailed sets, properties from all over the world, painstaking makeup, and a variety of minor characters who have been individually etched out.
More or less than a communist. That same month in Union Square.
On the other hand, some scholars have criticized this film for being very superfluous and more of a vehicle to promote Orson Welles as an actor rather than study the malaise as presented by capitalist America. Due to this adverse reaction during the Second World War, it did push this film into the background. But from the mid-50s, this film has always stood out as one of the most brilliant films ever made in the history of cinema.
Urged his country's entry into one war, opposed participation in another, swung the election to one American president at least, spoke for millions of Americans, was hated by as many more. For 40 years, appeared in Kane newsprint, no public issue on which Kane papers took no stand. No public man whom Kane himself did not support or denounce. Often support, then denounce. Twice married, twice divorced. First to a president's niece, Emily Norton, who left him in 1916, died 1918.
At the same time, another director, his name was John Huston. He decided to give the genre of film noir a bit of romanticism and a bit of entertainment. And along with his favorite star, his alter ego, it was the inimitable Humphrey Bogart. And their first tryst with cinema was a film called The Maltese Falcon in 1941, which explored the world of gangsters, attractive women, cops, smugglers, and detectives. John Huston's response to his characters appear to waver between the murderous and the sympathetic. Humphrey Bogart's appeal was in his amused, stoical manner, with his impassive, wry face. It was as if Buster Keaton had suddenly taken a different avatar. For a generation of adolescents who grew up at that time, Humphrey Bogart came to represent a man full of integrity, but under tremendous pressure. The film noir genre almost resembles the voyeuristic process of cinema viewing itself. For the price of a ticket, you could get to see anybody's life on the screen. Sam Spade is paid by various kinds of liars and imposters to find out the whereabouts of a jewel-encrusted golden statue of a falcon that had once belonged to the Knights of Malta. Sam's customers seldom reveal their motives, but they are greedy and unabashedly selfish. The Maltese Falcon ultimately is a disillusionment. It is a fake which had left behind a trail of murders, payoffs, broken love affairs, and an atmosphere of mistrust. But Bogart will be remembered forever in that marvelous romantic genre thriller called Casablanca. Although it is a kind of soapy melodramatic atmosphere, but this film has inspired hundreds of filmmakers and cineasts all over the world. This cult film was made by a Hungarian emigre called Michael Curtis. Curiously, a lot of these films made at that time were made by directors of European origin. Although Casablanca is not about gangsters or the seamy side of urban poverty, it contains all the essential flavors of a film noir archetype.
A precedent has been broken. Emile?
This is a very interesting cafe. I congratulate you. I congratulate you. What for? Your work? Thank you. I try. We all try. You succeed.
The film noir tradition intensifies after the war as a kind of strong rebellious counter-statement against the happy-go-lucky entertainment genre, which of course was the mainstay of Hollywood productions then. The noir tradition can also be seen as a strong protest against the Western cowboy thriller genre, which invoked a peculiar sense of American patriotism.
Move the wagon! Move them! Get that cart moving! Ah!
These films saw the war between one American and another in his own backyard. They carried the post-war pessimism to the point of nihilism by assuming the absolute and irredeemable corruption of society and of everyone in it. Certainly, the film noir movies cannot be seen as advocating acts of fraud and treachery. Although these films had the ultimate message that crime does not pay, these films also ask the viewers to see the world from another point of view, and that of the criminal mind. In this manner, the viewer is taken into confidence and asked to see the social reality and the conditions within which the gangster and the underworld is born. So powerful were their statements that many of them were even indicted as communists by McCarthy and the House of Un-American Activities. It is this tragedy that is brilliantly depicted when we watch films like On the Waterfront. Made in 1954 by Elia Kazan, we see the birth of a new cinematic language. We see the best combinations of powerful acting, precise screenplays, crisp dialogues, meticulous cinematography, rich sounds, and finally, the amazing concern for social and political values. Values which had gone astray in the face of opportunism and greed. Can you imagine? Just 50 years after the inception of cinema, the medium had come to face its apogee, its opposite. The silver screen gave way to the dark screen. The maximum potential gave way to minimalist imagery. And the magic of cinema came face to face with harsh realities. All said and done, it was indeed a very confusing and trying time for the Hollywood film producers. Suddenly, there was a plethora of films available on the spectrum. And to add to this confusion, films from all over the world started crisscrossing Europe and America. To look at one of the sources of this confusion, we will go to the continent of Asia and see how those films go international. But that will be the next week. Till then, goodbye.